are to fight discrimination and injustice against women, we must start from the home. For if a woman cannot be safe in her own house, then she cannot be expected to feel safe anywhere, said by Aisha Darren. So too, friends, October is a month for awareness about domestic violence, and at Womenlines, we are putting efforts to create as much awareness so that we can work together to erase this from our globe. So today we are having somebody from Vietnam, founder of HopeBox, a non-profit organization. HopeBox came from the simple idea and mission of helping rural Vietnamese women who have experienced domestic violence obtain a fresh start. Yes, friends, we are having Huang Dang, founder and CEO of HopeBox. From a humble beginning as a street kid, Huang made her way to Melbourne via a scholarship and was honored as Victoria's International Student of the Year with $20,000 scholarship. Huang completed a Master of Entrepreneurship and Innovation and founded HopeBox Social Enterprise in 2018, a not-for-profit transitional work-based therapy model that provides employment, training, and opportunities to victims of gender-based violence. In 2021, Huang was recognized as the winner of Women of and Social Entrepreneurship, the category of Social Entrepreneur. And we're having Binh Rai. She works as Principal Trade Mark Attorney at Pointon Partners in Melbourne, Australia. However, her earlier life was not so certain. She was 5 when she escaped the Vietnam War with her family. Like many other Vietnamese refugees leaving her birth country on a fisherman's boat in the dead of night, Binh became aware of HopeBox Vietnam social enterprise earlier this year via a mutual contact during COVID-19 lockdown, and she jumped at the chance to be an active patron of this charity to both donate her time and funds. Welcome, Huang, and welcome, Binh, to Womenlines Show. It's such a pleasure to have you both.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me and being on these episodes.
It's really a pleasure, and thank you so much for your time. My first question goes to you, Huang. Please share in detail what got you interested to come up with this organization like HopeBox and to help domestic violence survivors.
Yes. So coming from a small village of Vietnam, where I witnessed a lot of women who has been, experiencing domestic violence when I was very small. And also my mom was a single mom, so I knew being a mom is already a lot of pressure. It's a lot of burden, and but I have never experienced domestic violence myself. But then one day my sister got married, and ever since then she got into a very violent relationship, and she was a victim for 7 years. And I tried to help her many times, and I got really shocked a few times helping to rescue her. And at that time, I was in Australia doing my Master of Entrepreneurship and Innovation. So one time I tried to rescue her to a shelter in the city. So I coordinated everyone, all my friends in the city to help bring her to the city. And I went through that process. And at the beginning, I thought that she can go back to my home, to my mom's home, and stay with my mom. And at that time, I realized that my mom didn't accept it, and the society didn't accept it for women in the village to get divorced with two girls. So my mom, I knew that she loved her to bit, but she couldn't, she couldn't deal with all the social norms and all that sort of talks around the village. So she couldn't help, and I thought that I need to find a way to save my sister. Otherwise, one day she might be beaten to death. So I tried to bring her to the city and stay in a shelter. But then it didn't really help, because it seemed like they bring her from a problem and put her in another problem, because she was in the city, in a very new city, very big city. She didn't have money. She had 2 kids, and she had no future. She had no financial support. She had no welfare support from the government. She has no job and incomes. So looking forward to the future, it was very great for her. So she decided to go back to my mom. And And then, her husband became very violent again and used to manipulate her, using the kids to manipulate her. And she couldn't deal with it. So she came back to live with him for another few years. And I myself was a street kid before, and I was supported by Koto, a not-for-profit social organization in Vietnam. And it's the first social enterprise in Vietnam. So I was empowered by Koto, and I was very inspired by the model. And I did my entrepreneurship degree. So I was like, I wanted to use that approach to help the women in Vietnam to earn an income, and for them to have a job, to realize that they have values and they have empowerment, and their future is not set by destiny. Because it's also known. A lot of women think that, I have to handle with this because my destiny is set like this. I was wanted to receive this. So that's how I started HopeBox, to number one, support my sister, and number two, to empower the other women to do the same thing. And luckily, after 6 months of working for HopeBox as a operation manager, my sister got out of that situation, and she is now a very happy woman. She is now the operation manager. She is very happy and very healthy as well. So her life really changed after coming to work for HopeBox, and I believe that she will be a role model for other women as well.
That's great. Awesome to know this one, and so inspirational that this journey started with your family, and you choose the power of choice instead of letting it go and just leaving your sister on the hands of destiny. You took it in your hand and you started something which is helping so many women in Vietnam. That's amazing. Ben, my next question goes to you. How you decided to be part of HopeBox? Your work field is quite different way. I mean, you're working in a very different field. How it happened? We really want to know about it.
Well, it was through a colleague of mine. I work in international trade. I'm a trademark attorney, so work with a lot of businesses and startups. Mm-hmm. And it was through a colleague that she's, I think, a board member of HopeBox, and she was promoting that she was a board member and that she was running fundraising events. And because I was Vietnamese and it was HopeBox Vietnam, I thought, well, I'll look into it. And then I actually set up a meeting with Huang later on just to learn a bit more about it. And when I had the meeting, I was, really impressed in the way that she got herself out of being a street kid, being able to get a scholarship to Australia to study. And then not only that, but to give back once she actually finished her university here, to help her sister, and also to find a way to help other Vietnamese domestic violence victims. And it really resonated with me because I escaped Vietnam when I was 5, and I was very lucky that I've had a really great education in Canada and Australia. And I know from personal experience that my own mother never actually had any schooling in primary school or high school. So that just shows you that the Vietnamese girls that grow up, they're not expected to have an education or to work. They're really expected to be married off. And even though we weren't in Vietnam, I could still feel the cultural expectations from the Vietnamese culture. My mother had to cook, clean, so she was almost like a slave to the family. And we were living in Canada and Australia, which are first world countries, but we're still adopting some of the old ways of Vietnam. The other thing that I learned as well is when her parents passed away, all the property actually was left to her brothers, because only boys can inherit wealth from their parents. When I was, I think, just trying to think now, I was 16, my dad thought that he had to marry me off, that I didn't have a future, even though I was going to go to university. So I fought that as well. And my sister too, he tried to marry my sister off too. So the thing is that I have, even though I haven't been in Vietnam, I have experienced what it would be like for a woman to live there there's not the same rights as we have in Australia and Canada or a first world country. They have less rights. And I was just thinking, that if my poor mother was still in Vietnam and she didn't have an education and she was a victim of domestic violence, where would she go with 5 children? So it sort of resonated with me that what Huang's doing is very good. She's actually not, what I found, discovered when I had that meeting with her, is that it's actually not a charity in Vietnam, it's a social enterprise.
Yes, that's
where they're not giving the ladies the money or the funds, they're actually retraining them to be chefs, tailors, in hospitality. So it's actually helping them not only to be brave to leave their abusive partners, but it's also to retrain them so that they can be financially secure once they leave and that they don't feel desperate enough to return to that environment. So that is why that I actually said to her, I'd like to help a bit, more going forward, whether it's fundraising or helping bring awareness to this charity. And I also feel that I have benefited from, good luck. And so therefore I like to give back to my birth country. So that's sort of, hopefully that answers your question.
Definitely. And awesome to know that it's just not that you thought about yourself or your family. What inspiring me that you took a call thinking about other women whom you can help through HopeBox. Helen Keller's quotation comes to my mind that together we can achieve big. So once all women are gathering under one umbrella and together working for a cause, I think we can really help more women. So it's such a beautiful act by you that you decided to work with Huang and you are supporting in her noble cause. So Huang, my next question goes to you. Can you share in detail how exactly you are helping out the domestic violence survivors through HopeBox?
Yes. So, I living in a country like Vietnam, and I've been experiencing life in UK, US, Australia. I must say I'm very lucky, and sometimes I look back and I feel like if my sister had that opportunity like myself, then she would be doing a lot better. But she, unfortunately, she didn't have it. So I wanted to give more than just money. I want to give opportunities, and I don't want to use the charity models where it could be a lot easier, because if you have a charity model is when you have money and then you can do some project and then it's done and then you're done. You don't have to deal with too many people. But dealing with traumatized women who has been through a lot in life, and then to bring them, to integrate them in a new life and create a community and train them, give them the skills and empowerment is, to be honest, is a lot harder. But I choose to do that, and even though we do it slowly, small, but we wanted to help. One woman is changed, then her life is changed, the community is changed. Her employer has a good quality employee. Her kids are changed. So what HopeBox does is we oppose the training model first. So we create it as a work-based therapy training model. So we bring them in and we train them in baking and doing handmade products like candles, tablewares, because they have different skills. They make biscuits, cookies, and we sell it to supermarket, to cafes, and we sell it online. Hopefully we will be able to export it as well. And we invite experts into our organization, train them in baking, train them in different skills, that for technical skill. And then we also provide support in terms of workshops, life skill, trauma healing, CV writing, interview skill, and lots of activities that help them, like kickboxing, dance, all that sort of stuff, to help them increase their self-esteem, and also to train them into, like human rights. What is their right in workplace if they leave HopeBox? And we try to create a part of it is family as well, for them to have a community of women who are able to help each other as well. And we also give scholarship yearly to their children so they can go back to school and they can break that cycle of domestic violence. And every year in summertime, we bring them together, bring all the kids to the city and give them a trip, like an outing, a field trip. So that's what we do, and we help them with half of accommodation as well, so they feel safe, and we help them with vehicles to go to work. Yeah, so that's what we are doing. So we try to bring a very holistic models so that we see the change in them and the difference that they make. They progress each day.
Wow, it's amazing to know you're not only giving them fish, but you're training them how to do fishing, as it is said.
Yes.
And besides that, you are training them for the skills, you are giving them training for their self-esteem, you are giving them residence, you're helping the kids. Amazing work. Hats off to your dedication, Huang. I'm curious how you're reaching out to such women. Are they approaching you? You're creating visibility about HopeBox? Because I think women are not that much open about talking about they are facing domestic violence and they want to come out of the marriage. So what's happening in Vietnam? How you're working on this issue?
Yeah. So to be honest, domestic violence in Vietnam is still a quite hidden issue. Not many people talks about it. Number one is that the culture of things, as a culture of things, social norms, families, pressures. They all think that this is family issues, and the women never wanted to be embarrassed, because if they talk to somebody, it's like not many people, and not just people misinterpret it is that women are in the countryside that got more violence and they are hesitate to talk about it, but actually highly educated women in the city are also getting a lot of violence, and those are the one who doesn't want to uncover the issues because they have everything. And now if they come to somebody saying like, well, I have just been beaten by my husband, not many people do so. So what we do is that we receive a lot of calls from women, especially during the pandemic. But we don't do shelter, and we don't do outreach. So what we do is we partner with agency in Vietnam and Women Union. So some organization like Haga International, they are good at what they are doing. So we interview the women who are going through those organizations, and then we bring them to our organization. So we want to make sure that, because it's quite complicated. Some women, if we don't know, they are still in a very violent situation, and we got that experience already. Their husband follow us, and then someone could be a gangster. So we had a gangster came to our place and frightened us, and that's not good for our women as well, for other women. And then the local police don't really deal with it. So if we come to we call the police few times, and they come in and they was like, oh, can you do it yourself? Because this is a family issue. So that's the situation in Vietnam. That's the current situation in Vietnam. I think to be able to help end it or reduce it, it needs to be involved with a lot of policymakers, with government that can create change, with people who should,
they should be coming
practice
up
all the policy. Yeah. So we don't pick up the phone and answer the calls and saying come into work. We don't do it. We want to make sure that it's safe as well, and it's secure. There is security in place that women come in. They need to feel safe because they have been through a lot. So we don't want to put them into an environment where they feel unsafe. And so that's how we do it.
Yeah, very well said, because once they have that confidence that they are secure and they are getting the support, I think then it's easier for them to talk about it. So
and also a lot of women come in, they haven't got divorced. So then we also have social worker from other organizations like Haga International. So Haga International will have they have their expertise, experts, and we send our women there to get advice on the law of divorcing and support with mental health support as well. So that's how we want to link, create, within our ecosystem. We want to see allocate resources so that we don't have to do everything, but we also focus on what we are good at.
That's very thoughtful, thinking of the holistic approach is the fantastic way, because once mental health is taken care, once legal aspect is taken care, it gives more confidence to any woman to come out of the challenges she's facing. Awesome work, I must say. Bin, my next question goes to you. I want to know, what do you think can be the best way to erase domestic violence from our society? Can you highlight your experience with various survivors you have come across? Any particular story you remember you want to share with us?
Well, I think education is really important to help reduce domestic violence. We need to allow our sons, boys, men to be taught that they can be emotional, that there are other ways instead of resorting to physical violence to deal with their frustration, their problems. We also need to teach them that they need to respect, girls, women, mothers, their wives. So that has to start from a very young age, the education. And as Huang has already said, the culture in Vietnam isn't really open to something like that. I think the boys brought up thinking they are kings or princes, and the laws don't. The laws actually reflect that, as I said before, that the inheritance of property goes to the sons, not to the daughters. So I think legally the legislation is imbalanced in terms of, the balance between women and men there. And also the cultural norms has to change over generations. And the policing, I think it's not just a Vietnam problem. I think we have that same problem in Australia as well, where a domestic violence victim here can call the police, but they can't do anything about it. So, and even with AVOs, sometimes so I think maybe tougher penalties for the offenders has to be legislated, to deter these violent partners from reoffending. But I think that's unrealistic in many ways too. Can you imagine locking up all the abusers? We'd have to build more jails then. So I think maybe a mixture of education and legislation would help that. I think in terms of how can I say, personal experience, when we escaped Vietnam, we escaped with extended family, and there was a little bit of domestic violence in our childhood from the extended family member, and my poor mother was at the brunt of it, because when you marry into the family, the woman has no rights. The new wife has no rights. The man's family becomes the prominent, matriarch, the power. And I remember when I was in Canada, because we were refugees to Canada, that often it was accepted that it was okay for another family member to incite, violence towards my mother, to a point where she actually had to go to a women's shelter. And I think that's part of the reason why we sort of came to Australia to get away. But normally, as Huang said, it's a bit embarrassing because, when we left Canada, I remember telling everyone I would never reveal the domestic violence side of things. I would say, which was true as well, my grandmother actually developed cancer and she wanted to come to live in Australia as part of, reuniting with her sons. But it was actually, the other reason was to get away from that violent extended family. But even as a child, I never revealed it, and only family would know. And if anything, no one wants to talk about it. It's buried so deep that no one, my brothers, my sisters, no one wants to talk about it. So it's almost like it didn't happen, but it did happen. And unfortunately, I can see what can even be worse in Vietnam. I mean, as I said, we had been transported out of Vietnam to another country, but the cultural norm came with us. So that's, we often say that we've actually done well, considering that we did witness that, and none of us are violent, and we don't have domestic violence within our new families. And maybe we're just lucky, but not everyone gets out of that. Children, my brothers could have adopted, that violent tendency, but they didn't. So I think it's really important that that there is help. And in my mum's case, she was able to go to a shelter, until things calmed down. And it's really great that Huang is offering that shelter in Vietnam, because I can't imagine even, in Vietnam, it'd be more shameful in that environment. So
very well said. And I so much agree with you on the point that there's a big responsibility on mothers, how they are bringing up their kids. So we should be really thinking about what mindset we are giving to our kids. Okay, Huang, we'll love to know your inputs also. What do you think, how we can erase domestic violence from our society?
I think it takes a lot of efforts, and in order to really erase it, we need to come together, to work together. If we work together as a community, as one, then we can lift it quickly and to a different scales. So I think from social entrepreneurs like us, we need to make our business model sustainable. So we can financially support them, but we can also create jobs. We need to apply innovation into our business to diversify our products, to get more skills workers into the organization, so we can offer more jobs. And from the government point of view, I think for policymakers, they need to make the rule, the law available, and they need to promote it and practice it. So our women know where to go. They know what their rights are. They need to have welfare support. Their kids can go to public school in the city if they integrate in the city. But at the moment, it's not like that in Vietnam. There need to be a system, need to be more shelters in place so that we can work on that. But one point that I always wanted to promote is the domestic violence issues is coming from the men, but we always drive it towards women. This is not women problems. This is men problems. So how can we educate it from the men points of view? So when we have a situation of domestic violence, we need that the men need to be involved. So how can we change that perspective is really important. And secondly, the children that is affected by domestic violence, how can they grow up breaking that cycle? And how the children that are not affected aware. In Australia, there is a very famous program for respectful relationship that I really want to apply it into Vietnam. So we need to change someone when they are young, so they grow up in a healthy environment and they know what healthy relationships are. So I think in order to it's a lot of work to do, isn't it? But everyone needs to be.
Very well said, Huang. Very well said. And it's my request to whole global community, reach out to HopeBox and help them out for their noble work. Thank you so much, both of you, for giving your valuable time and sharing about the awesome work done by HopeBox. I wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.